Well, hello there. Welcome to CPW alumni. Thank you all for being here. Class is now in session. In this case, we are going to have one of our wonderful innovator interviews. We're having Christy Claus, aka Christine Seelye-King. Did I pronounce that right, Christy?
Seelye. You
Seelye,
know,
sorry.
you know what it's supposed to sound like. It's the Fae. Come on.
Okay. That scares me. All right. But as we always open up with CPW, always do a little call and response. I say Merry, you say Christmas. Merry,
Christmas!
Merry.
Christmas!
I say jingle, you say bells. Jingle,
Bells!
jingle.
Bells!
I say happy, you say holidays. Happy,
Holidays!
happy.
Holidays!
I say milk, you say cookies. Milk,
Cookies!
milk.
Cookies!
I say candy, you say canes. Candy,
Games!
candy.
Games!
I say happy, you say Hanukkah. Happy,
Hanukkah!
happy.
Hanukkah!
Yeah, you can use call and response for a lot of fun things. I'm going to teach you a new one today. Jackie, you've heard this before. So when I say who runs the North Pole, you all say Mrs. C. Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
All right, now I'm going to give you the next line. She's hip. She's jolly.
She's hip. She's
Jolly.
jolly.
She knows who's nice and who is naughty.
She knows who's nice and who's naughty.
Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
There you
She's
go.
hip.
Now we have a cheer for the ladies. Does that work for you?
That's great.
All right, let's try that one more time.
She's jolly. Okay.
Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
She's hip.
She's hip.
She's jolly.
jolly.
She knows who's nice and who is naughty.
She's hip. She's jolly. She knows who's nice and who is naughty.
Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
Who runs the North Pole?
Mississippi!
There you go. All right. Well, that's a new cheer that I wanted to make certain we had something for the ladies because, I honestly, not that I have anything against Tim, but I'm getting tired of the give me a hoe. So let's let's try to shake it up just a little bit. So we have an amazing performer, somebody who has been through thick and thin, through fire and famine and flame, and you name it, she's done it. She is a wonderful performer, a tough cookie, and somebody who I truly respect and admire. And the thing about Christine is she's not somebody who's out there in the Christmas community on all the boards and everything. She's kind of been doing her own thing for a while now. But the thing is when I ran into her, I suddenly realized, holy crud, I'm talking to somebody who has a lot of knowledge and somebody who I thought had a lot to share with our community. And so when we first hooked up, I said, "Could you please come and share some of your mojo with the CPW alumni?" And she very nicely said yes. So everybody, give her a round of applause. There you go, Christine. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be included as an honorary member of the alumni here. And I have a little PowerPoint to start off with, which is a fun way to show you some really cute pictures of me being Mrs. Claus over the years. But also, Santa True and I have had a lot of discussions about what does Mrs. Claus do? What kind of activities can a performing Mrs. Claus sell herself doing? And so I've kind of laid out pictures of myself doing different types of things. And hopefully that'll give us a jumping off point to have conversations about other types of things. I really want to hear more about the elf school. That sounds like a really interesting idea. So it's something we can certainly talk about later. Okay, cat. Fingers crossed. Here we go.
Take it away.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, okay. So this is, as I said, a cute little way of me showing you some pictures of things that I have done over the years, and also to present it in a way of having a conversation about how can Mrs. Claus sell herself? What kind of jobs does she do, both behind the scenes and in front? All right. So, other than sitting around and waiting for Santa to return after his Christmas Eve run, what does Mrs. Claus do? North Pole office manager. And let me just start off by saying not every Mrs. Claus does all of these things. These are the things that I do. And especially when we get down to some of the specialty things later on, other people are going to have different specialties. Not everybody sings, not everybody sews, not everybody does the office work. But these are the jobs that I have held here. So, and a lot of Santas do this for themselves. But for me, I have done all of the booking, all of the advertising, all of the invoicing, all of the travel arrangements, mapping, all of that stuff has been in my purview under the partnership that I have had with my Santa. This is my Santa. He and I started in 1994 doing this. He retired after 25 years, and so this will be my 28th season. So now I am a solo Mrs. Claus. So that's the pictures that you see are going to be of him, but he no longer does this. Taking care of professional training. So this was the Santa University that we attended in 2005. So we were at it for 11 years before we got any professional training. However, we were both working at Eastern Onion singing telegram service, doing performances, and so we had that kind of training as performers before we ever started doing this. That's us in the upper left there. We're the second and third from the right there. And Santa Dallas was his name. He did an awful lot of purple dinosaurs before he started doing Santa. Lots and lots of purple dinosaurs. So he had a lot of experience. I mean, he was a dad too, but he had a lot of experience doing little kid parties in a hard hat where you can't see or be heard very well before he took that off and started doing Santa Claus, which is really great training. We took this, there's Santa Tim Conahan there in the center. So that's part of the Mrs. Claus job, I think, is to make sure that you continue to do training. For us, wardrobe mistress, one of my jobs, I made everything that we wore. He did the leather work, he did his belt, his bag, the hat was a joint effort, but both construction and on-the-scene repair jobs fall under my purview. Making a variety of different looks. So we have kind of an old world look. We have a Victorian look is our main look. What we really didn't do was the Coca-Cola look, except for one exception, because we wanted to stand out a little bit. So we went with a little bit of different look. And quite frankly, Santa Dallas has no neck. So between the white fur collar and the white beard, if we had him in something under his neck, it looked like John the Baptist's head on a plate full of snow. So we specifically went with a collar that was close cut around here. He wore a banded tuck shirt with it so that he didn't have that extra ruff around his neck. He said when he was in the Air Force, he constantly got in trouble because his hair was supposed to be 3 fingers above his neck, and it never was because he didn't have 3 fingers worth of neck. So that was one of the reasons that we went with that different kind of style, was to make Santa look good. Which brings me to making Santa photo ready. I found this picture and I started thinking, what percentage of the job is this? It's a lot. It's a lot, especially if you are doing a photo shoot, right? And that's the whole gig, is looking good with the kids. Making sure Santa looks good in the photos is a huge part of it. And even just having a set of eyes on you before you walk out the door. I have been to the big Santa conventions, Red Suit Roundtable here and other things. And you can tell a Santa who doesn't have a Mrs. Claus, or just anyone, another set of eyes to look at them before they walk out the door and say, you're crooked here, you've got a wild beard hair sticking out here. Keeping Santa looking photo ready is a huge part of this job. So I was glad I was able to find that. And hair care. We did our own hair, do our own hair, because the first 2 years we did it, now this was mid 90s, we had professionals really do horrible jobs, horrible things to our hair. So we just started doing it ourselves and got better and better at it as time went on, because we started out being so badly burned and losing hair, and it was a horror show. So Mrs. Claus's Beauty Salon cranks up every Christmas in my bathroom, and that's part of my job. Of course, appearing with Santa is one of the big things. Helping the line move along, passing out candy canes, baby wrangling is a big part of that job. All of the things that go along with appearing with Santa Claus. And creating special events. That's his one Coca-Cola suit. We did this at Brave Stadium, where he was on the field playing catch with Homer the Brave, which is the little guy that I'm sitting next to down there on the right. And then they played catch on the field and then ran up out of the stadium, and then up in the 749 Club at the top, another Santa in a similar suit popped out to do the party. So this was us doing this big special event on the field at Brave Stadium. So it's a lot of fun. Mrs. Claus only appearances. This is definitely something that you should be able to put on your gig salad listings or in other things, and encourage people to book Mrs. Claus alone as opposed to just as a couple appearance. Sometimes, I mean, let's face it, the first Saturday in December, you might not be able to book a Santa. Right? So encouraging people to think that Mrs. Claus is a character that can be booked on her own merit is a wonderful thing. Baby wrangling. I mentioned baby wrangling earlier. This young lady actually shows up later too. I found early on that Mrs. Claus can take a crying baby away from Santa and calm that baby 8 times out of 10. Not 100%, but very often they'll come to a woman without the facial hair. And so Mrs. Claus has that magic that can sometimes soothe the baby and get the picture with Santa, maybe hold the baby while Santa's coming in behind and getting his face in the picture, and the crying child doesn't know. So that's a big part of it. Tree lightings. I love tree lightings. You don't get to do it very often as Mrs. Claus. Usually Santa gets to light the tree. So whenever I get a job when I can do the tree lighting, I'm always very excited. And definitely something that I think if you put in a listing is something that people will think about and say, oh, that's a good idea. We could have Mrs. Claus come, and then maybe have Mrs. Claus light the tree and then have Santa pop out and make a big entrance, something like that. Now, I'm a singer, and I have been a performing singer for a very long time, so caroling is a big part of what we do. My Santa and I had a lot of time to rehearse, and we had harmonies that we did. We knew all 3 of the verses to the main songs. And so that was a big part of when we sold ourselves as a visit from Santa, where we would come to a home and do a visit and sing songs and tell stories and play games, things like that. And doing some extra songs beyond Rudolph, Jingle Bells, We Wish You a Merry Christmas, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, having a few extras under your belt really kind of expands on what you can do, fill time, get kids to sing along. The picture on the left with all the little kids looking at me is a tree lighting, actually, that I do every year. And the song that I sing, even if it's the only thing that I do there, is the 12 Days of Christmas. And I go through the steps, all of the days ahead of time, and encourage and lead the group in the noises. each of the objects of the days make. And I even went so far as to looking up partridge noises on YouTube, bird calls. So that a partridge sounds sort of like squeaky bed spring, has sort of a noise like, which you can get a lot of mileage out of with a bunch of kids. And so I lead them through the turtle doves and the calling birds and all this. And I've been doing this particular gig long enough that people come back that are groupies. They've been practicing their noises all year round and they're ready for it when they get there. I actually got to this one this past year and the organizer was new, and this happens right before Santa arrives, which is a big deal. And then the tree lighting happens and yay. And they said, okay, well, we want you to go out and read A Night Before Christmas. And I said, no, you don't. That's not going to get the crowd excited. The Night Before Christmas is a lullaby, basically. You want me to do something that's going to get the crowd all wound up and ready for Santa to arrive. You want me to do 12 Days of Christmas. And they went, oh, okay. That sounds like a good idea. They had no clue. So sometimes you have to know your room and kind of lead the organizers and say, you know what I think would be better here. Plus I had already had people coming up going, we're here. We've been practicing our noises. We're ready for it. You know, you can't come out and then read The Night Before Christmas after that. So yeah, so caroling is definitely something that I sell, that's something that I do, that's part of an extended part of what we do, rather than just the Jingle Bells, Rudolph, We Wish You a Merry Christmas. As a matter of fact, the very first thing I ever did as Mrs. Claus was a caroling party. That's me, 1994, my very first Mrs. Claus gig. I think it's hysterical. That dress is still available. You can still get that dress. I have seen it on people in a little mob cap and the little Martha Washington wig that I was wearing. I'm 33 in that picture. So I started, I was very young, Mrs. Claus. Now I don't have to do the bleaching so much. I have the natural look. But yeah, so the very first thing I did, this is when I was working at Eastern Onion, and Eastern Onion got a call. It was a country club, a group that wanted to have caroling, and they wanted Mrs. Claus to come and lead a caroling group. And I said, sure, I can do that. Dressed as Mrs. Claus, went and led carols. Everybody had song sheets, and they had a big time. And I thought, this is a good character for me. I should do this more. 28 years later, here I am still doing more. Storytelling. Now, this is True's area, obviously, but storytelling is definitely one of the things that you can sell and something that you do. And I've been thinking about this because I showed True my storybook, which I'll show when I'm done with this. And he said, well, do you tell stories or do you just show books? And I said, well, I do both. And I've been thinking about that. And because I do so much more singing, my storytelling tends to be around the songs, like talking about how Jingle Bells isn't a Christmas song at all. It's about going for a sleigh ride in the snow. And you talk about what's a bobtailed nag and 240 for his speed and what all of those things mean in relationship to horses. And that's really where I do a lot of my storytelling, is in preparation for them singing a song that they may know really, really well. And then I give them a little background context to it. But I do other types of stories as well, including this, which when the pandemic started and we all thought, okay, well, we'll do some storytelling online. And then we quickly all realized we can't read books online that are copywritten. We'll get in trouble with that, right? So I put out a notice to my friends and said, can somebody write me some original material? I need to be able to read some stories as Mrs. Claus. And a friend of mine who does turtle rescue wrote this really adorable story about the 3 T's Christmas trees, and she illustrated the whole thing. Those are all her paintings. And it's about 3 different types of turtles. That's Rex Terrapin, the red-eared slider, Terry the tortoise, and Sandy River turtle. And none of them have pine trees, and so they don't know exactly what kind of Christmas tree to have. And so they talk to Santa and Mrs. Claus, and they get ideas to go and make trees out of the kinds of vegetation that they have in their native habitats. It's so cute. So So she's published this on Amazon because she wrote it for me for Christmas. I've got a video of me up on my YouTube channel of me reading it. It's, what the problem with the book is at this point, you can see it in my lap there. It's small, and we need to get it published in a comb so that it'll open up all the way, and bigger so that the pictures are easier to show to a group. So it isn't perfect yet. I'm just thrilled to be able to use that as a story time book. Not everybody gets original Christmas material. Non-messy crafts. I think this one's important. I don't want to show up for something in a dry clean velvet dress and have them hand me a bunch of glitter glue, right? So I usually stipulate non-messy crafts when I say that if you would like us to come and participate in some non-messy crafts and songs and stories, we can do all of those things. So that's a line that I think is really important. As an example, here, pet photos is another thing that is a good thing that you can advertise yourself for. If you look at the two photos on the left, I'm completely washable. And so is Santa, as a matter of fact. That's his cotton velour Santa suit. That's his pet suit. I'm all in cotton and washable stuff, have an apron on. That was a booking that we knew was pet photos. We were going to be there all day taking pictures with animals, so we dressed accordingly. The one on the right, somebody just handed me their cat at a home visit. So I took the cat and I posed with the cat, but that is, like I am not dressed for that pet video, or that pet photo. So that's why I stipulate the non-messy crafts, because I don't want to get caught out. And if the kids are being given candy canes before they come see Santa, I try to circumvent that and go, why don't we do candy canes after you see Santa, or you have to go wash your hands before you come see Santa, or something like that, so that we keep the sticky stickies away. You might get a chance to do parades. That's another thing that you could put in a line as a keyword search and have Mrs. Claus come to your parade. Cookies! This is the big thing. Everybody thinks of Mrs. Claus with cookies, right? And I have made cookies. These are my cookies. These are actually cookies that I did for a class. These cookies aren't exactly my big thing. I know some Mrs. Clauses that have a whole cookie business, and that's fantastic. For me, in my mundane life, I am a chef instructor. So for me, I'm more along the lines of cooking than baking. And so I have created content which I have then turned into a variety of different applications. So I have these recipes that I've developed as a Mrs. Claus Cooks thing. I've used them for an ebook, for videos, for cookbooks, for online classes. I've used that same content in a variety of different ways to be able to package it and put it out online. So that's me. I'm more of a cook than a baker, so I'm not so much on the cookie baking, although I have done it. I've done gingerbread house decorating things and all that sort of stuff. But being able to take that kind of content and then repackage it so that you can put it out there in different ways, I think is definitely something to think about when you're talking about virtual, staying online and being able to put stuff out that people can access that way. I've also done YouTube videos and virtual classes that are live from my kitchen, and that's been pretty wonderful. I did a private party last year for a language group where we did all holiday beverages, and we made wassail and a caroler's toddy and eggnog, and I published the ingredient list ahead of time so they could cook along with me, and then I prepared all of those dishes while we did it. So that's another aspect of being able to continue to be Mrs. Claus while being virtual. So here's something that I did that was out of my comfort zone. I got asked to come do stand-up with a local comedy troupe. Now, having done singing telegrams and having done a lot of performances, it wasn't out of my skill set, not in my comfort zone. This is not something I had done before. But when I got this call, they said, could you come do stand-up? I said, I could try that. Why not? And I let myself be a little uncomfortable and be a little nervous about it. And it was a whole lot of fun. They invited me back a couple of years running. We kept doing the Mrs. Claus takeover thing. So when you get those calls and they call in and say, gosh, we'd really like Mrs. Claus to come and do this, unless it's something you just really, really don't want to do, allow yourself to accept a job that maybe you're going to have to learn something to do and make yourself a little uncomfortable. Get yourself out there. Other beloved holiday characters is my Santa in the bunny suit. Like I said, he did a lot of hardhead characters. He did a lot of bunny and dinosaur and things like that. And me is Beatrix Potter. So we're talking about keeping your performing chops going throughout the year. Using other holiday characters. I know True does wizards and leprechauns, and we did all of those things. We've collaborated on Halloween storytelling stuff. So continuing to put yourself out there for those different holidays, I think, is important. Who was it? It wasn't Jackie. It was the other lady from Southern California. We were talking about having start now to get ready to be able to be up and running for Christmas time.
That was Maggie.
Keeping on the other holidays, putting yourself out there for other holidays is another way to do that. And you may not be a cook or a singer, but maybe you crochet, and you could do a video with crocheting Christmas squares or something that you like to do that you could feature and do videos for, or do visits with, book parties. I would think that a bunch of girls or a bunch of women would love a crochet party with Mrs. Claus, just as an example, or tea parties, or the elf school that you were talking about. Things that you already do in your life that you can incorporate into your Mrs. Claus to personalize it and to bring that part of a little difference, right? It's not what everybody else is doing, because this is what I do. And then, so now what am I doing? I have some virtual presences. Last year I actually did outdoor appearances only, and I had several of those. And then I did some virtual stuff. I've done virtual parties where we do Christmas trivia using the Zoom poll function, and then Christmas whiteboard trivia using the whiteboard function, and run hour-long parties for different groups using the Zoom function and holding virtual parties that way. So I have a Facebook page and I have a YouTube channel. The first year of the pandemic, I did a variety of things called jingle journals, where I was teaching myself how to use the video editor in Microsoft, and a variety of features where I had people send me their pictures of their Christmas trees and things like that. I've been talking to True. I do not have a gig salad profile up yet. I do want to go ahead and get one of those for this year, but I do think that I'm going to feature myself for the types of virtual things that I can do. I don't think I'm ready to put myself out there to be an in-person yet, but I can see the value of having a gig salad profile, so that I can, if the people are looking for something and they go, oh, look, oh, and a list of, oh, a party, or we could do a virtual cooking class, or we could do this, or we could have virtual outdoor tree lighting, and having those things that I'm willing to do listed as my features, I think would be a really good way to get my toe into that. So that's my plan for immediately coming up. All right, so that's it for what I have. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share.
Wow. Christy, you knocked it out of the park. A round of applause for Mrs. Claus.
Yay! Which is a good book. Which is a good book. And while we're talking about books, a couple that I really like, some storybooks that I really like. What does Mrs. Claus do? This is great. This is great. Mrs. Claus has a ninja sleigh. Mrs. Claus has a band. Mrs. Claus has it going on in this book. She really does. I love this book, and it's got great pictures. It's easy to read. The rhyme scheme is great. Let's see if I can. She's the CEO. She's the CEO, office manager at the North Pole, right? She does all kinds of fun things. And another one that I really like is Snowmen at Night. This one's a lot of fun. It's got some great pictures in it. All the snowmen rolling and making snowman angels. It's really, really cute. And then the other storybook that I wanted to show you is my 3-ring binder. And the way I have this set up is I have my stories like this. So I can show this, and then I'm reading back here. And then I can flip the page, and I've got the next story next here. Oh, book titles and authors. Okay.
Actually, I've been grabbing them as well, so I'll be able to put them into the
What
Facebook.
Does Mrs. Claus Do is by Kate Wharton, Wharton. Illustrations by Christian Slade. And Snowmen at Night is by Carolyn Buehner, Caralyn, capital Buehner. And I'm guessing her husband did the illustrations, pictures by Mark Buehner. So that's that one. They're wonderful. Really good pictures, big enough to be shown from a stage. This is awesome. So when I find picture stories that I like, even if I have to find the extra pictures and throw them in there, and I want to be able to read a story and show pictures, this is the way I have my book set up, so that I'm reading and they're looking at a picture. I'm never having to go like that, or look over here, looking back over my shoulder and talking away from the crowd. I can talk directly at them this way and use my book that way. So those are my storytelling. Buehner, anyone? Buehner. And then here's my 3 T's and the Christmas trees. I have to show you my favorite picture. That's Rex Terrapin in the holly bush.
That's beautiful.
The red-eared slider. Yeah, she started writing the poem, and we were collaborating back and forth, and she painted the first picture, and then she painted the next picture, and then they started coming like I think she was painting on the back of paper plates in her house. So, she was painting on everything, and she threw it together, and we got it up on Amazon that year. So I was amazed by just saying, who can help me out? Who can provide me some content that I can use online? And she threw that in there. The other thing I wanted to show, my little show and tell here, and then I'll be done with that. This was our postcard. This photograph has made me so much money. We have been using that photo for a really long time. So that's our postcard. This is a Vistaprint postcard. And on the back, that's how we listed it. There's no names on there. It's just a visit from Santa and the productions, the name of our business. And then what can we do? We have a special treat from Santa and Mrs. Claus and create precious memories. Photo opportunities, your camera or ours, personal time with children and adults, holiday carols sung in harmony, 2 laps for kids of all ages, storytelling for the season. So that's our list of what can we come and do for you. It's right there on our postcard. Now, I'm not using this one anymore because Santa has retired, but this is what we used for years and years and years. We sent this out to apartment complexes, and the cool thing about this is it's nicer than a business card because, one, it's a really cool picture, and when you give it to people, they go, "Oh, can I have this?" Why, yes, you can. That's my business card. Nobody says that about somebody else's business card, but they always say it about that kind of picture. So no text on the front. All of the text is on the back. No names that kids are going to look at and go, well, who's John Smith? It's just Santa and Mrs. Claus are going to come see you with a phone number.
Hey,
and
Christy.
we have had little kids pick this up and call us and want to talk to Santa. So it is important that you don't have a name on there that they're going to find like that.
So, Christy, at some point, can you snap a couple of shots of that, and we'll send that we'll share it with everybody on the alumni.
My postcard?
Sure, if you don't mind.
I have a digital copy.
Thank you.
Believe me, I have a digital copy. Yes, I can totally share that. It's not up on my Calling Mrs. Claus page anymore. It's there, but it's deeper because I took that down and put up pictures of me when he retired.
So jumping in here real quick, as you folks can now realize immediately why I wanted her to come talk with us. Yeah, she is definitely an innovator. Christy, that was just amazing. You knocked it out of the park. What amazing content. Now, all the cool things you're doing.
Well, I've been doing it for 28 years. Now, I haven't done all of those things every year. Different things have come up at different times. But I did, what you and I have been talking about what can you say? If you're putting together an ad, if you're saying, hire me, I'm Mrs. Claus, what are the kinds of things that you can say that you do? Well, I am not much of a puppeteer. Puppetry is certainly one that you could do. If you do face painting, if you do balloon animals, all of those things. I know a lot of Mrs. Clauses are clowns. It didn't come out right. They are professional children's entertainers the rest
Right.
of the year, right? And so they have that skill set. They've got the face paint, and they've got the palettes, and they've got all of that stuff that they do. You can incorporate that into being Mrs. Claus. If that's a talent that you already have, you should be using that. You should be utilizing that, because people are people don't know what to ask for. You
Yeah,
tell them.
we are definitely facing a big challenge in that we need to educate our audiences, because most people, when you ask them what Santa Claus does, well, he takes pictures with the kids, he asks them what they want for Christmas, and maybe he reads the night before Christmas, and that's the extent of it. Most people have no idea what a professional Christmas performer can do, and
Right.
with Mrs. Claus, it's a even bigger enigma. She makes cookies, she
Yeah.
holds kids, and so yeah, we part of the
Yes, those things are true. She does do those things.
right, but I mean everything else. And so part of the mission of the Tune Up and Turbocharge workshop is to work with everyone to help us push our market, get that information out into the market, and get them coming to us because of what we offer. That's part of my goal. Can I ask you a couple of quick questions, and then we'll open it up to the floor real quick?
Sure.
Okay. So, question number one, tell us about where did you get your performing chops? What were some of the things that really helped you develop as a performer?
Well, okay, so my mother said that I was holding a full-on conversation when they put me in her arms when I was born. So I think it started really, really early. Um,
Mhm.
but definitely working at Eastern Onion and delivering singing telegrams. I did that for a living for 12 years
Wow.
before cell phones.
And what kind of characters were you doing?
I had a variety of characters, everything from one that I inherited that I never really liked called Atlanta Anna, which was kind of a floozy southern. I didn't really like her. Somebody else had developed that character. We developed one called Leather Lucy, which is a motorcycle rider, which was a lot of fun. I had one called Scarlet O'Piglet, which was a pig mask and a hoop skirt, and definitely a riff on Gone with the Wind. I did a singing telegram dressed as that to Dan Aykroyd here while they were filming Driving Miss Daisy. Actually, had Morgan Freeman follow me out on the porch and tell me I was a great actress.
Wow.
Probably the best compliment of my life.
And in
um,
his voice.
yeah, and in his voice, because it was really him. Yeah, they were all in old age makeup. It was the end of the movie where she's in the old age home, and we were in that was the location where we did that. I did a lot of California raisins. A lot of California raisins, a big over the head plushie, delivering balloons, a variety of hardhead characters. Like, I never did the purple dinosaur, but I did my share of. I will not ever wear a gorilla suit again. Won't do it. I'm done. I am done with gorilla suits. Yep, I've done it. We had to do the tango dressed as gorillas on a stage with no lip, and we rehearsed by watching the scene from Scent of a Woman where they tango, where he takes takes the lady out on the floor, and we rehearsed that for a few days, and we got out on the stage, and we started out, and we get to the end of the stage, and the first time I did this, the gorilla head stayed looking that way. So I'm blind and no lip on the stage and tangoing with another guy in a gorilla suit, and I'm hanging on to him for dear life saying, "Don't drop me. I can't see anything." So yeah, no more gorilla suits.
So, Christy, but in terms of actual training, was there any particular training like vocal training or improv or anything like
I
that?
did. I took piano. I took professional vocal lessons through high school. I sang in choirs all through school. I've directed choirs. So yeah, I have a fair amount of professional singing training and a little bit of professional acting training, and just a whole lot of natural hamminess. Just and that's when people say, "Well, how do I do that?" I can't teach that part. I came out this way. And so some people have that personality and some people don't. And I wouldn't want to say every Mrs. Claus has to develop that really outgoing, gregarious personality, because, you wouldn't want to force that if that's not you. You may be the quiet, sit in the back and read quiet stories to the kids that want to have quiet time, and that's your strength. And there's nothing wrong with that. I can be quiet, but that's not what I'm good at.
So
I'm good at being heard in
you've
big
actually
groups.
you've actually helped train other performers
Uh-huh.
and get them out the door and everything, and you've seen the Santa industry, for lack of a better term, evolve over the past 30 years.
Hmm.
Any observations about what makes a good performer, how things have changed that you think maybe are both good or bad?
Well, there's more Christmas performers than there used to be. We used to be pretty rare on the ground, and there's a lot more now, and that's fine because we were never able to cover all of the shows. We just when we tell kids that why are there more Santas? Well, there's a lot more children in the world, so you have to get more coverage. Um, um, Besides just being more, like I said, we took our first training 11 years in. There wasn't any training. There was no Santa schools or anything like it. We were already performers. So we had a costume shop also at our disposal. So we had a lot of that going for us already because we were already in the business of being performers. Um, and when we took the first Santa school, it was first couple of years that they were being offered. So that's definitely changed. Just the fact that there are multiple Santa schools now, that there's schools that focus on some on photography and some on more performing aspects, and that there's merchants now where you can buy the big belt buckles and things like that. That's hugely different. The internet has happened since we started that. That's kind of a major thing. The fact that we have the ability to do some virtual stuff now, that certainly wasn't anything that we were able to do earlier.
But if I handed you a Mrs. Claus hat and said you're on, you could go out and do an hour of content off the top of your head, no problem. Um, how do we help the Mrs. Clauses who are coming into the field now get to that point? How do we get them to the point where they can start developing their own events, their own content, that sort of thing?
Well, I think you have to identify what your strengths are. That's first and foremost. I can sit here all day and tell you that you should learn the top 5 Christmas carols to go on to every show, and you really, really should have Jingle Bells and Rudolph, bare minimum. If you can't do Jingle Bells and Rudolph, talk your way through it. Take the Rex Harrison and My Fair Lady route and just talk your way through it. Do it a rhythmic beat. Teach them to shake the jingle bells. The way I always do Jingle Bells when they hand out the stupid bells to every child, is I see my eyes slam shut. Oh, is I say, okay, everybody, let's practice before we sing the song. When we do it, I want you to go ding, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Everybody practice with me. Ding, 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 ding. And suddenly, you have a room full of little kids that are almost in unison. Almost. They can usually go, get the 3 rings, and they've learned something and they all feel like they're doing it together. So, those kind of things, like I said, I do a lot of storytelling around my songs. Those kind of things help pad your time, and engage your audience. It's not just another recitation of Jingle Bells, which they have probably heard 52 times in the season already. You're encouraging them to engage a little bit more in a different way. So if you can find ways to do that, then that's really good. There's a game that I invented as a time filler, which I will give to you all tonight. It's on Christmas morning, I hope to see in my stocking or under the tree. And you say that. On Christmas morning, I hope to see in my stocking or under the tree. And then everybody answers. And depending on how big your group is, you can either point to individual people or have everybody just shout their answers out. And every answer needs to be the next letter of the alphabet. So on Christmas morning, I hope to see in my stocking or under the tree something that starts with the letter A. And everybody could say apple, aardvark, Alfa Romeo, right? And then you do the next one. Christmas morning, I hope to see in my stocking or under the tree something starts with the letter B. And the beautiful thing about this is everybody can play. I had one elderly man once decide he was going to play it by stating luxury cars all the way through. So we got Alfa Romeo, we got Bugatti, we got Corvette, we got DeLorean, each one. And people were like waiting on to see what he was going to come up with for like Q. And if you have to stop because the next thing is starting, nobody cares. If you stop at P or Q, nobody cares. Although the kids will probably come up to you later and go, I was going to say zebra, you know, or they'll think about it a little later on. But that's a great time filler. It doesn't require talent. It doesn't require a musical capability. It's just a fun, engaging thing that everybody from the littlest kids who know their ABCs all the way up to the, you know, old guy who wants his fancy cars can play it, and they really get into it.
So, Christy, I'm going to stop you there for just a second and open it up to the floor. You've covered so much stuff. I have a bunch more questions I would ask, but I would ask the members here of CPW, the crew, do you have any questions for this young lady?
Well, I'm going to jump in with one item, and that is all the books mentioned and this little game and even her promotional postcard already in the CPW alumni Facebook group. So that's already in place. You can get all the content there.
There's Mrs. Claus doing the behind the scenes North Pole office manager job. Like
kind of do, yeah. I haven't had to have a red dress for it. But if any of you are about to ask the question of, can you tell me that thing you said before? I already got it covered. You can start with your brand new questions now.
Yay.
All right, everybody's got a good question. Let's hear them.
You can put your hand up or you can unmute and try to jump in.
I hope to see in my stocking or under the tree something first the letter I. Iguana, you do not want
got a question.
Okay.
Do you, since you have the wonderful honor, I do as well, of doing all of your own sewing and outfits and costuming, do you engage with the children or even the adults if they're asking about that and talk about your role as seamstress designer for all of the North Pole?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you know, the kids are always asking about the elves, about the reindeer, you know, they want to know about your home life at the North Pole. So, you know, I learned early on, if you're going to tell a tale, tell as much of the truth as you possibly can. And so we do that, right? I started using Christy Claus as my name just because Christy is my name and I know I'll answer to that. I mean, goodness knows I have gone out dressed in funny clothes under a variety of character names, but that just seemed, after many years of asking what's her name, you know, the original story that Catherine Lee Bates wrote, her name is Goody, but that's only a nickname either. So, so you know, I think a lot of Mrs. Clauses use the first name and Claus. I think that's fine. And I forget what else part of that question. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry. Do I talk to them about sewing? If they ask, yeah, we let them. You know, we show off the different parts. You know, Santa's had the little key that gets into all of the doors if they don't have a chimney on his bag, so they want to ask about that. And he had a big jingle bell, like one of the horse bells, on his bag. So if they get up close and personal and want to ask those kind of questions, I'll talk to them about all that kind of stuff.
So, Christy, you went from doing a lot of duo. Well, you started doing solo, then went to duo. Now you're back to doing solo. Any challenges in particular for you as a solo performer now?
Well, that's kind of a hard question to answer because I've only been solo since the pandemic. But
Mm.
things are not the same as they used to be, and I can't, really compare to what we were doing before. The jobs that I am doing now are jobs that I was booked as a single Mrs. Claus appearance prior to that. I haven't picked up any new because I haven't been advertising myself except for virtual stuff, the virtual parties, and I've done virtual visits with kids over Zoom. A lot of phone calls. I had a troubled kid last year that was getting in fights on the bus, and we had a series of phone calls about how to be better, how to not react to that, and I got him to sing Jingle Bells with me, and when he finally broke down and sang Jingle Bells with me, his entire behavior switched. He was the best kid on the bus for the rest of the year. He was Mrs. Claus's friend, and she had sung Jingle Bells with him. So, I've done a bunch of that kind of stuff.
Very
So,
cool.
we will
Dale,
see what happens as we go forward.
I
Dale,
see Dale's hand up. Dale, are you ready to be spotlight?
Oh no, I never want to be in the spotlight, but I may have missed it, Christy. Where are you based out of?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta. Well, if I'm ever in Atlanta, I want to go to lunch or dinner with you because you are a delight.
Oh,
And I
thank
so
you.
enjoyed you taking the time to spend with us. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
And I see
What?
a hand up
Talk about myself for an hour?
I see Natasha and Sean have their hands up. Are you ready to be spotlighted? Excellent.
Yes.
Christy, what is your most memorable performance, either as a Mrs. Claus or as a Claus couple?
Memorable good?
Okay, pick one or both.
The stand-up was very memorable. Doing stand-up because I had to have, I was there, it was me, no Santa, no regular thing. We weren't singing Christmas carols. We weren't asking if they'd been good and had they brushed their teeth. It was none of that. It was an entirely different pattern. It was way outside of my comfort zone, and it was a blast. I had a really, really good time with that. Natasha, what made me think of that when he asked me that was we were at a senior citizen home. We were at an assisted living facility once, and one of the things that we learned at that gig was not to try to have octogenarians sit on our lap. That idea, don't want to drop grandma on the ground. It's a bad thing. Have a chair next to you that they can sit down in, get their picture taken, and go. That was one thing we learned there. But the reason I reacted that way was the 80-something-year-old woman that came up on her walker, pushed me out of the side. I'm in full Mrs. Claus drag. I'm not like a handler or something, right? Elbows me aside, hobbles up to Santa and says, "Hey, Santa, want to come down my chimney?"
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
And he blushed, and he held it together, and he said, "Well, ho ho ho, ma'am," and he kind of just brushed it off and went off, and we both kind of went, "That really just happened." But Santa is a chick magnet, and we learned that really, really early on, that little girls, old women, drunk women are
oh my God.
dangerous. Drunk women will yank beards faster than a baby will. And just get in there and do this. So we've had some interesting experiences with that sort of thing too. Natasha's like, "Oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into?" But
No, at our first like official big city gig, the ladies were getting like kind of handsy and a little out of pocket.
They
And
do.
he thought that I was just overreacting. And I'm like, oh, no, that's
No.
like they
No.
are.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, it's definitely a phenomenon. And maybe I should have put Santa bodyguard as one of my things, because it's a real thing, you know, running interference, saying, "Come on, Santa, it's time to go feed the reindeer," to get him out of an uncomfortable situation like that. That's a thing. It's not something you want to advertise. That Mrs.
Uh,
Although you could, by saying Santa needs a handler, and I'm
yes.
there, you have to pay me as a handler because Santa needs somebody to keep an eye out for the line, for, you know, to make sure that we move things through, and just, you don't have to give them all the details, but you can say it nicely and
Bob,
be there because of that.
Bob, you had a question?
No, actually, Tom has his hand up
Okay,
first.
Tom.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering, we have a lot of questions as the children will ask Santa. What are some of the unusual questions they'll ask Mrs. Claus?
Oh, they want to know all kinds of stuff about the North Pole, and how does, you know, what does Santa eat for dinner, and do you take care of the elves, and what are the reindeer, how many reindeer are there, and they, you know, the same kind of general stuff that they ask Santa, but they ask about Santa to Mrs. Claus, you know. What did he have for dinner? What do you feed him for dinner before he leaves on Christmas Eve? That's one that we get a lot.
Because my wife plays Mrs. Claus from time to time, and she's very shy.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, but I always sometimes put her outside of her comfort zone. We do restaurants. I'll go one way and I'll go, okay, you go over this way. And, and I get that evil eye before as she walks off. But
Well,
she's very,
So-
then if
she
she's
does a lot better.
uncomfortable, then I would have a few things to say. If I'm wandering in a restaurant, which we've done, right? We walk in and glad hand around the tables, right? Having a few things, and I generally go with, is your room clean? Have you brushed your teeth? Have you been good? Which always gets a big laugh, especially if it's like a businessman, you know. And I just go right with it. How's your office? Is it clean? And his wife will go, no, his office isn't clean, you know, and just play with that. So if she can get a few questions that she's comfortable with and have a little patter set for herself, you don't need much, because you're going from table to table. You only need
Right.
to have a 2 or 3 things that you can say, and
One
then
thing-
you can move on to the next.
One thing I can do, Tom, is PM me and I'll send you the list of 50 questions.
I believe I have that from the first class.
If you go through that list of 50
Yeah.
questions, you'll start to develop the pattern that you need.
Yeah, it's
And she could just pick 3 or 4 that
Yeah.
she is comfortable with, and then if she's put in that spot, she's got a prepared litany of things that she can fall back
right.
on.
She does a lot better than she thinks she does, and she like you were mentioning about babies, you get the crying baby, they'll drift right over to her and to calm down. We can get the picture, and stuff. She actually worked with the public for a number of years. So working with the public and being around was not unusual, but when she steps into that Mrs. Claus role,
She's
she
not
feels
exactly sure what to do.
she gets a little more shy.
Mhm.
And I try to help her bring it out a little bit. I don't get hard questions and stuff. And I try to handle a lot more of the difficult ones. And but yet I look at her, she's smiling and she's talking with people. And I said, "You're a natural. You're just, if I leave her alone, she'll start drifting,
Right.
out, and she'll start talking to people." And she does a
I think she
fantastic
needs some
job.
talking points. I think if she had some talking points about, what kind of cookies was she making this afternoon, and she had she didn't have enough chocolate chips, so she had to go with white chocolate chips, or the reindeer were out doing their exercises and she brought a couple of extra carrots, and they were like, if she has a few talking points that she can go out with, that
Right.
she's comfortable enough with, then I think she'll be better off than just, oh, I've got to go make small talk with people.
No,
Because
she does. Well, she was a hairdresser for a number of years, so talking with people is not a problem.
She's good.
But it's just when she gets into the role of Mrs. Claus, I think she's her expectation feels like to her it has to rise rather than just be yourself. She said, like she's always told me, you've never had a problem of talking with anybody, regardless. Yeah, no, I said, well, what the heck?
I'm gonna cut in here, Tom, and ask
Yes,
my
go right ahead.
questions.
That's good.
2 questions for you, Christy. What advice do you wish you had learned earlier? And 2, what do you wish you could have done in a performance that you haven't been able to do yet?
I can answer that for my Santa. He never got to ride in a helicopter. He
Oh,
really wanted to come in on a helicopter. We had Frontier Airlines here, and there was a vice president of Frontier who, for several years running, my Santa was the Santa for their employee party. And the VP would dress as Santa, fly his helicopter in, land, get out of the helicopter and wave, and then my Santa would go in and do the photo gig. And he really wanted to be the come in on that. He's come in on fire engines and segways and a great big shopping cart once. He's done all kinds of motor vehicles, but he never got to do that. What have I not gotten to do? I want to do more tree lightings. I love tree lightings. They're exciting and they're fun, and Mrs. Claus doesn't get to do them often enough. So that's one that I want to be able to do. What do I wish that I had known earlier? Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know that I can. Let me think about that. Let's keep talking.
yeah, we'll get back to that.
I will ponder that one. What do I wish I had known earlier?
Well, it is
Hair care is huge, right? You don't get professional Santas together and the conversation doesn't turn to hair care within 30 seconds. Something's wrong, right? And we've learned a lot about products and how to do it and how often to do it and how to make it work right. There was a huge learning curve with that, the chemicals and everything. Like I said, we got burned really badly the first 2 years going to people who supposedly knew what they were doing. And so that would have been helpful to have more information about that, be able to do that better earlier on.
So it is fairly late on the East Coast, so we don't want to keep you up past your bedtime, you East Coasters.
Bedtime's not for a while yet.
Yeah, well, some of you folks are on the East Coast have to be in bed. So I'm going to ask is we're going to do one last question for Christy, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Who wants to do the last question with Christy? And they're quiet. All right, so I'll ask a question. How do you look for good content? How do you find the stuff that you think, this is going to be a good piece? This is, what are you looking for when you're looking for good content?
That's a good question. I want it to be relatively short. If somebody ever hands you a copy of the Polar Express at a party and wants you to read it, you have to do everything you can not to do that.
Right.
It's way too long, way too long. So when I'm looking for new material, I want to keep something that's nice and short, that hopefully is easy enough to learn that everybody from little kids to older can learn it. I like to riff off of things they already know. So if I can add something to the Jingle Bell song or the Rudolph song, or the responses to Rudolph seem to come in waves. Have you guys noticed that? That for a while, all the kids will know, like a light bulb, and then for a few years they won't, and then it'll start picking back up again, and you'll have people going, like Monopoly, But adding that in, if they don't know it, you can teach it to them. So I like to be able to build on stuff that they've probably heard in school or on the radio and things, and add a little history, give them a little more depth to the story. Why are we doing this thing? Why are we,
Nice, Melinda.
why are we bringing a tree into our house? Things like that. So if I can add a little Christmas history into it, that's good too. All of those things are good for content. I want to keep it short, sweet, recognizable, fun, interactive as much as possible. I want to get them. I want to share another game, if I may. And this one's not my idea, but I love it so much. I like to share it with people. So I live in the South, and we don't get much snow, especially not at Christmas. It's happened, but very rarely. And we attended a party once where it was, oh, I don't know, 60 degrees outside. And they had created a snowball fight for the kids. And they had taken laundry baskets and white athletic tube socks. And they'd taken each sock and balled it up. And they filled the laundry baskets with these white tube sock balls. And they had a snowball fight with them outside. So much fun. Completely green grass, sunny day, 60 degrees, and the kids are outside pelting each other with these snowballs. And I've also seen that done where people are told to bring the socks, and then the socks are donated to a charity afterwards.
Ooh.
Which is a nice addition to that. So another thing that if people are like, well, we don't know what we're going to do with you for 2 hours. Well, how about a snowball fight? We can get involved in that. That's a non-messy craft. You know, that's something that we can do and not get messed up. So I really love that idea. I wish I could take credit for it, but I share it all the time because I love being able to provide that kind of idea to people because it's just cool on a lot of different levels, especially if you do the donated sock thing.
Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Everyone, please give a round of applause to this amazing woman. And you know I'm going to call her back and have her educate us some more because she's got way too much to share.
One of the things we talked about just on the way out is I did a class in 2020 for one of the Mrs. Claus Facebook groups on the Christmas party on Zoom that I was talking about, how to work all of the different functions of Zoom, how to run a trivia game through the polling, how to use the whiteboard function, and create a party atmosphere hosted by Mrs. Claus on a Zoom call.
Absolutely. Definitely something we're interested in. With that, I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Christy. Amazing job.
My pleasure.
Our next innovator interview is with the amazing Chuck Gill. He's a singing Santa. He's a voice actor, a stage director, and a teaching artist, and he is the Santa for the Philly Pops. So, you know, big time. And he he's a product spokesman for uh, Call Santa or something like that for one of those organizations. But I'll figure that out and let you know. But and that's happening July 6th. Fantastic guy. You absolutely do not want to miss him. He's fun in a basket. And the other thing is that we have 3 workshops coming up. One in Florida, which is Palm Tree Santas. We have one happening in Oklahoma. That's happening in September. And then we have another one up in NORPAC, up in Washington. And so that's the Tune Up and Turbocharge workshop. And I hope you'll get the word out and you'll want to come to those workshops because they're going to be just a ton of fun. And anything else you wanted to throw in here, Miss Cat?
I do not have anything to add. That sounds great.
All right. Well, let's close it out. I say Merry, you say Christmas. Merry.
Christmas.
Christmas.
Merry.
Christmas.
All right. Quick question. ABH.
Always be humble.
Always.
Humble.
ABL.
Always be
learning.
learning.
NBC.
Never break
Great character.
Absolutely. And great performers do what?
Perform and
Practice
practice
and
all year
perform
long.
all
All
year
year.
long.
All right. You're singing my song, folks. I'm really proud of all of you. Get out there, have some fun, and share it. If you have more questions, she's in the alumni group. Feel free to add any questions that you missed here, and go tell everybody what an amazing interview this was. Thank you all so much. We'll see you all soon. Ho, ho, ho. Glasses
Ho, ho.
dismissed.
And away
Calling
we
Mrs.
go.
Claus on
Oh, oh, oh.
Facebook. Come find me, and like my page, Calling Mrs. Claus.
Thank you, everyone.